Famous for its magnificent medieval three-spired cathedral, and for being the birthplace of such luminaries as Erasmus Darwin, Anna Seward and Dr. Samuel Johnson, this beautiful Staffordshire city has seen over 1,000 years of tumultuous history and boasts more than its fair share of stories and specters. Come with me as I delve below the surface and uncover the fables and phantoms of Lichfield. The Field of Dead Bodies. Not a name that would top the most wanted list for most towns, but for years this is what people thought Lichfield meant. A literal corpse field. The place where the Romans slaughtered hundreds of Christians, including 3 kings named Borrow, Cope and Hill, in the reign of the Emperor Diocletian. In 1549, the official city seal was designed to include the bodies of these 3 slain kings, and Dr. Robert Plot recorded the legend in his 1686 book, The Natural History of Staffordshire, despite there being no linguistic evidence that Lichfield means corpsefield. The myth that the cathedral was built on the last resting place of the dismembered dead persists, as in this local rhyme. 3 slain kings named Borrow, Cope and Hill, when the battle was ended, lay quite cold and still. Legs, arms and bodies were scattered all about, for the battle had been cruel, of that there was no doubt. If this is just a story, then it's a good one, and it certainly captures the imagination. What we do know is that Bishop Hedder built the cathedral in 700 AD to house the relics of St. Chad, a bishop who selected Lichfield as the centre for his Mercian diocese, and whose bones were enshrined there, with a special head chapel for his skull. Unfortunately, Chad's rest has not been easy. During the Reformation, this place of pilgrimage was destroyed and his relics removed, though one of them is now back in the new shrine, reinstated in the cathedral in 2022. The Reformation also saw the dissolution of Lichfield's Franciscan friary in 1538. Monk's Walk now stands on part of the friary site, and this peaceful, secret garden is where you can see some of that building's original stonework, and, on occasion, one of its original residents. The shadowy figure of a monk quietly walks the flower beds, perhaps still tending to his medicinal herbs, before passing through an archway and vanishing. And he's not alone in walking the pathways and corridors of his monastic home. A robed figure has been seen in the library, floating along the shelves of books that now occupy the cloisters and dormitories of old. Do their spectral wanderings take them underground too, through the maze of tunnels said to exist below the streets of Lichfield? Some reports claim that one runs from the old friary site to the cathedral, a passage used by the brothers when unsafe times meant a covert route was required. Another apparently connects the cathedral to Sandford Street, where a bricked-up entrance can be found in the cellar of a local shop, along with some frightening phenomena. It's reported that the temperature here will drop dramatically, and shadows have been seen flitting across the wall with nothing present to cast them. Stock stored in the cellar moves seemingly of its own accord, and one owner of the building stated that his dogs would refuse to go into the space, shaking with fear at the top of the stairs. This could be related to the local tale of a young girl, only 13, who became trapped and died in one of these subterranean passages when they were being sealed off. Certainly there have been sightings of a ghostly figure in another building in nearby Bird Street. A small, misty form, wearing a shawl and bonnet under which you can see a wisp of red hair. Known as Elspeth, she is believed to be the spirit of the poor child who was looking for a place to hide, but died entombed below the streets. Bird Street is also the location of Langton House, a handsome Georgian property that in the 1960s was owned by Lichfield Theological College and used as a residence for students undertaking their theology training. The Birmingham Post reported in 1964 that the Bishop of Stafford found that there was no rational explanation for strange happenings at this house, which is why he carried out an exorcism. For 2 years, nearly every night, an unearthly screaming would plague the students staying at Langton House. After carrying out investigations, the bishop performed a service together with the students, praying and sprinkling holy water over every room, door and window. And his efforts seem to have paid off, as whilst there are still rumours that a murder took place at the property, no more screaming has been heard. It seems Bird Street is quite the place to find restless spirits. It also houses the King's Head, the oldest coaching inn in Lichfield. Having been a place for people to rest and refresh since 1495, it isn't surprising to learn that there's a few ghostly guests as well. One of these, George, is thought to be a former licensee. Appearing in the cellar where he died, he melts away, leaving a lingering eerie atmosphere in the air behind him. There's also the ghost of a young maid who died in a fire. Her tragic appearances are accompanied by phantom firelight flickering at the windows. Stranger than these, though, is the spirit of the Cavalier soldier. This poor soul died on the street outside the pub at the hands of several Cromwellian soldiers, his body dumped afterwards in the cellars of the King's Head. Despite this, his ghost, marked with horrible wounds, smiles and laughs as it walks through the building and out onto the pavement. Yes, Lichfield also bears scars from the turmoil of the Civil War. As a well-fortified royalist stronghold, it suffered enormous damage from parliamentarian attacks and occupation. The cathedral itself endured 3 sieges, with Cromwell's soldiers stabling their horses in the nave, destroying glass and carvings and removing the bells. A cannonball even hit the central spire, collapsing it into the church below. During one assault on the magnificent building in 1643, a lookout named John Dyett, who was deaf, dumb and an excellent sniper, fatally shot parliamentarian leader Lord Robert Brooke in the eye, apparently using bullets made from lead taken from the cathedral roof. Is it possible that one of the spectral figures now said to haunt Cathedral Close is that of Lord Brooke himself? Many have reported the eerie sounds of marching men and galloping horses echoing along the empty street on quiet nights. It is, however, in the historic Market Square, overlooked by the house where the famous Dr. Johnson was born, that I found some of the most haunting stories Lichfield has to offer. It is here that Thomas Hayward and John Galway were executed in 1555, with Joyce Lewis meeting her end the same way in 1557. In fact, it was in this very place that Edward Whiteman, the last person burned at the stake for heresy in England, died in 1612. Yes, these people were burnt at the stake. What a horrific way to die. Paraded in front of baying crowds, bound to a large wooden pole with a fire lit beneath them, begging for respite as the flames grew higher, brutally murdered by the state because of their beliefs. And I find this more terrifying than any apparition, presence, spectre or demon. The dreadful evil human beings do to one another in the name of law, politics, and religion. As my journey through Lichfield comes to an end, I leave carrying heavy echoes of history and mystery. From its ancient Roman roots to the blood-stained struggles of the Civil War, from its majestic cathedral to reminders of the terrible cruelty meted out by those convinced of their own righteousness, and of course from its haunted corners and tunnels to the many whispered tales of restless spirits, Lichfield is a place where the past is never far from the surface.